You're gonna feel some pulling and some tugging. Well, I'd say it was more than that. I don't even use the word pain. This is a positive story, but this is the part where I wish somebody would have told me. Like, it felt like they were trying to lift me off the table. Hey there, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sarah Adams, and apparently this month is C-Section Awareness Month, which I thought was kind of weird at first, but it totally deserves some awareness. It's definitely a very serious and scary surgery for a lot of people. So I wanted to record this video because I was so scared to have my C-section with my son Davin, and I'm gonna tell you the story and the good parts about it and the bad parts about it. But overall, I had a really good experience. So I felt like I just wanna share like a positive C-section story because we're having a C-section with my daughter in a couple months. And I feel so much more prepared for it. I'm not nervous about it at all. So I just thought I would share like the things that I wish that somebody had told me. Also, I'm gonna show you my C-section scar because I think a lot of people would want to know what that looks like. And again, like overall a positive. There's definitely some negative stuff in there, but yeah, I'm just gonna share my experience with my C-section with Davin. A couple of things to preface before I tell you about how the C-section actually went. Number one, my son was not alive when he was born. Although he was stillborn, this isn't gonna be a very emotional story, but for anybody watching this that maybe found this video because you're searching for C-section stories because you might have to have one, I knew that he was sick and we were preparing our hearts and our minds for him passing away. So this was not like an emergency. We thought we were going into the hospital to have our live healthy baby and we lost them in that moment. This is not that story. This is also good timing for this video with it being C-Section Awareness Month because I've been wanting forever to share my story about having my son in the hospital with me. I'm sure that will be an emotional video, so that'll probably be the video to come after this. So I feel like this is kind of a segue between my terminal pregnancy. If you haven't watched my video about my pregnancy, go back to that. In there, I just briefly mentioned towards the end about post after he died, basically just that we had the C-section and then I had him in the hospital with me for 3 days. So this next coming video is going to be all about the time that I held him and had him and took pictures with him and everything before I left the hospital. So going back to this video, one of the common questions that I get from people is why did I have to have a C-section with Davin and why do I have to have a C-section with this baby, Jolie? So why I had to have a C-section with Davin was, number one, he was breech, and I'm not sure, but I think most babies that are breech when they're full term still end up having C-sections. I asked the doctor, well, if he's passed away, do we have to worry about like him, obviously, like his health? Can I still try? He's smaller. Well, he wasn't smaller because of the condition that he had, cystic hygroma and hydrops. His body was very swollen. He was born at 26 weeks and he weighed 4 pounds, 10 ounces. That's like more than twice what a normal baby that gestation would weigh. He just was so swollen. He basically just looked like he was super chubby. So yeah, going through a vaginal labor wasn't an option that I was given. So I had to have a C-section and then I had to have a vertical C-section, which is where they cut the uterus up and down instead of across. And that's not something that they do much anymore. I think that's how they originally started. When they first started doing cesarean sections, it would be up and down, but now they mostly do them bikini. Fortunately, my scar, and I'll show you guys that towards the end of the video here, my scar is cut on my bikini line, but my uterus is cut up and down. And what that means is that I would be at too high risk for rupture if I go to full term with this pregnancy or any other subsequent pregnancy. And they don't want me to go through that laboring process because the uterus is a muscle, and as it's contracting, yeah, again, it could tear essentially, and then I could bleed to death. So I don't know like what chances there are, but like they're like, it's not even worth the risk. C-sections for me from now on, that was pretty disappointing to be told that, because before this I was going to do a not just vaginal birth but natural birth, no medication. I think every little girl like dreams of their wedding and babies, and maybe it's sadistic, but like I wanted to go through the whole like natural birth process. I was signed up to do a natural birthing class even, and so that was definitely like something I had to kind of get over. But at this point, like I said, I'm going to share how that surgery went, and now that I'm like very aware of what's going to happen and I like know what to expect, I'm actually quite content that I'm having a C-section with this little girl. I'm also kind of happy that she's going to come a couple weeks early. She's scheduled for 37 weeks, so they don't anticipate any reason for a NICU stay or anything. But yeah, so for anybody that's watching this video, either you just like following my story, this is my story, and for anybody that actually found this video because you wanted to hear a C-section story, again, maybe you're having a C-section, I'm going to be honest, there were some things that like I wish somebody had told me, because they were not comfortable, they were very unexpected, and had somebody told me, I probably wouldn't have been so scared for the C-section. So how my C-section went, we found out that Davin had passed away on August 1st. And we were scheduled the next day to go in for the C-section. We were one of the first to be scheduled, so I arrived at like 6 in the morning. And I remember going through a series of offices and rooms. And again, like this is my story, this is my experience. Everybody's is gonna be different based on the hospital. And even what I felt during the surgery, yours might be very different. So take it with a grain of salt. So yeah, we went through like a couple of different rooms and doors, signing different papers, which eventually the important part is it led us to the prep room, where I had to take off all of my jewelry, get completely undressed, put on a robe, and Clark was with me this entire time. He stayed in the room the entire time while all this was happening. I met the anesthesiologist, the surgeon, my doctor came in. They spoke, you know, just asking if I had any questions or anything. And then another nurse came in, and she was kind of like in charge of taking care of Davin. Now, I don't know what this will be like with a live birth, but I'm assuming kind of the same thing. But she asked me like if I wanted to meet him, see him right away. And I said no, like I'd rather, because I know like they lift him up over the curtain. It's like, no, I'd rather you just kind of clean him up and bring him into the hospital or into the recovery room, where I actually had a friend of mine who's a photographer who was going to be there to capture those first moments of us meeting him. So I gave her a special little swaddle that I had purchased for him, and a cap that had a little cross on it. And I feel like if there's anybody that is going through a terminal pregnancy, I'll probably do another video about that at some point, just talking about like, here's what I did to kind of prepare for it. So even like having that photographer available and having this special little swaddle and hat that I bought for him, like those were very special things for me, which I'll talk more about in that video, the next video about what the time that I had with him in the hospital. But anyways, so yeah, I just told the nurse like that's how I want to do it. And then another nurse came in. The only thing that was kind of weird about that whole like prep experience was I had to use this iodine swab. It was this massive Q-tip with brown gooey iodine, and I had to swab the insides of my nose. Again, I don't know if this is something that every hospital does. It was not uncomfortable or anything, it was just weird. So had to do that. And then I guess the next weird part, stage 2, was going into the surgery room. I've never had any kind of surgery before, so I wasn't quite prepared for how sterile and bright everything was. It was kind of felt like something out of a movie. Also the fact that I had to walk myself there. I just assumed like in the TV shows they're gonna put me on a table and like wheel me in. Well, I was completely unmedicated and quite fine to walk, so I wasn't given that option. It was just weird to like know that I was walking into a surgery, and I just walked right in the door. At that point, Clark did not come with me. I guess he had to stay back and like scrub up and put on his little outfit and cap and stuff like that. So like I said, it was a little weird, a little startling walking into the rooms, just seeing how bright, clean white. Also, the room was full of people. I don't know how many people, but there was like at least 5, maybe like 8 people in there, and they all had their scrubs on and masks. So it's just hard, like when you're going to a very vulnerable situation and you can't even, like, you don't even know who these people are, and all you can see is their eyes. You can't even really connect with them, like seeing their whole face or their smile or anything. So that was a little unnerving too. But got in there, tiny little table. Like I thought it was going to be like a wider table. It's not. It's a tiny little table. Sat up on there, and this nurse, she seemed like her job was to kind of like keep me calm. She was staying there chit-chatting with me. Wasn't in the mood for chit-chat. So if you're having surgery and not in the mood for chit-chat, I just gave her like closed-ended short answers. And she explained to me that the anesthesiologist was going to be coming around and giving me the spinal. And that was probably the part I was most scared about. That's why I didn't even want to have an epidural, like had I had a vaginal birth, because I've just heard like these horror stories of them. And I have to tell you, when it came to that point, it went so well. I was so pleased with it. She told me that I had to like, she stood in front of me and I had to like put my arms over her shoulders and like arch my back, try to like really open up my spine. And I did feel a tiny little pinch, nothing like uncomfortable at all. And all of a sudden I just felt this flood of warmth go down my legs. And I was just like, it worked. That was it. Like, that's great. And they quickly moved me around and laid me back on the table. There's like these things for your arms. And again, this is, I think, where it kind of varies from hospital to hospital. And I said specifically I didn't want to be on any kind of heavy narcotics that would make me loopy or not be able to remember anything. So I think maybe if you are put on some meds like that, they might strap your arms down. I don't think my arms were strapped down, and I'm just saying, like, I'm just being honest, I don't remember because of everything just going on. And of course, like, just, again, mentally and emotionally where I was at thinking about my son and everything. I don't remember if I could move my arms or not. It wasn't really important at that time, though. Whether I could or not, I probably wouldn't have wanted to. I was just focusing on breathing and relaxing and doing what they told me to do. So a lot happened in those next couple of minutes. As they put the drape up, I couldn't feel anything down there. So I know that they gave me a catheter. I'm assuming they fully exposed me, and I know that they like paint iodine on your stomach. I couldn't feel any of that. Didn't know what was going on. So it wasn't until like basically all of that was set and ready that Clark came in then. So they brought Clark in. He sat up here to the left of me, and I could hear like machines beeping and stuff. And then another doctor, or maybe it was the anesthesiologist, I'm not sure, to the right of me. Again, I could have moved my head and like looked around and actually, but I don't have any, like, I didn't look Clark in the eye at any of that time. So something I'm looking forward to with this surgery is to actually like look over at Clark, because I'm not going to be as nervous this time. And also, I have it on my notes to talk to my doctor about how this whole surgery is going to go, and doing Google gentle cesarean. And there's like different things that they talk about that are options or that you should talk to your doctor about. And the one thing is asking, like, just to make sure that my arms will be available. I'm hoping that I can do some skin to skin with Jolie right away, or like at least touch her or hold her. So to have my arms available is something that's important to me for this one. So anyways, yeah, the next part is where, again, I'm being honest. This is where I wish that somebody would have told me this. Right before they started the surgery, the surgeon was testing to see if I could feel, like, if I was numb. And so she poked me on my left hip. She said, "Can you feel that?" I said, "Yes." Pokes me on my right hip. "Can you feel that?" "Yes." And so she like starts poking, and I like start calling out where she's poking me. And she's like, "Okay, we're gonna have the anesthesiologist come back." I guess he had stepped away or something. I'm not quite sure. But very quickly, I remember somebody saying, "What do you feel?" And I said, "It feels like you're just poking me, like with your finger." Because that's really like all it felt like. She's like, no, I'm like pinching you really hard. You should be screaming. I was like, oh, no, I don't, well, that's not what I feel then. It just feels very late. So you do feel things. And they did tell me ahead of time, you feel things, you're going to feel some pulling and some tugging. Well, I'd say it was more than that. I'll get to that in a minute. But with that, like testing to make sure everything was numb, again, I didn't, even though they told me that, I didn't quite expect that. So when they started the surgery, I felt like this, like this, it just literally just felt like they ran their finger across my bikini line. And I realized that is the blade and I can't focus on this. I need something. At the time, there was no music playing in the room. So I was like, Clark, talk to me. And he was such a nervous wreck. He does not do well with like blood or surgery or like anything like that. So he was not really like, I don't know where he was, but he didn't talk to me. So fortunately somebody said, do you want music on? So they put music on in the room. That was nice. That I could kind of focus on that. And the whole like the surgery I think really only takes like, I mean, once they actually start that point, I think it takes like a half hour, maybe 45 minutes. So the whole first half until he was born just felt like they were like trying to lift me off the table with their bare hands. And because I had the spinal and I was numb, nothing was very sharp, but there was like this like achy intensity. So I just remember, and again, like I don't even use the word pain. This is a positive story, but this is the part where I wish somebody would have told me. They said tugging and pulling. It was like it felt like they were trying to lift me off the table. So I was just like, I just remember like groaning. I was like, oh. To the point that the nurse or whoever said, do you want anything more for pain? And I thought about it for a second and I was like, no, I don't. Like it's not so bad. Like I can deal with it. And I definitely didn't want to be like loopy and everything. So yeah, I just wish that I had been prepared for that feeling. So now I am. I'm prepared for that. And he was born, the doctor, I don't remember if she gave me a heads up or not. That's something I'll probably ask her again. Like, will you like tell me like when we're like moments away from this happening so I can like get ready for it? But she said, she's like, do you want me to describe him to you? Because she had known that I didn't want to see him right in that moment. And I was just kind of like, again, so nervous over the surgery and like, what else is going to happen, that I didn't respond to her. I didn't answer her. So she didn't. And so then he was born. I don't know, I guess he was whisked away. And normally at that point, if it's a live birth, they're like cleaning the baby up. You hear it crying and everything. Didn't hear any of that. And so then they put me back together. And that felt like I had a very sore stomach. And they just kept like pushing on a sore stomach. So again, pretty uncomfortable, but that part seemed to go a little bit more quickly. And I think maybe too, just because like mentally I was like, okay, we're almost done here. So once they got that all done, I believe Clark stayed with me this entire time. So eventually they pulled down the curtain. My stomach was like almost gone. That was amazing to me. They wheeled me into the recovery room. Again, Clark came with me. I know that. And I was probably in there for probably close to an hour. It went much faster than that though. They basically just kept testing me to make sure the numbing was wearing off, checking my vitals, making sure that everything was good, and it was. I remember being really thirsty at that point and asking if I could have some water, and they were like, no. And I was like, I literally like, just to wet my mouth, I don't need to swallow it. So I'm pretty sure they gave me like an ice cube real quick or something. So, and then they wheeled me off to my recovery room. And then it was at that point, probably within 20 minutes or so, that they brought Davin to me. So again, that's gonna be the next video. But to continue with the C-section, just to kind of summarize my experience with it, it was not the most comfortable, but I'm just glad that I know that now. It's not near as bad as I thought it was gonna be. It wasn't a piece of cake by any means. It's definitely not the easy way out. I think the big thing with a C-section is it's more the recovery afterwards is hard and long. compared to like with a vaginal birth, you go through all that work in the beginning, and then I'm sure you're still sore, and especially like if you tear and stuff. Everything that I've seen from any friend that I've known with a baby, they're up and walking and stuff right away. With the C-section, I could not basically sit up for the first day. Like, I barely did. Fortunately, you're in one of the beds that have the mechanical thing to like recline and lift you up. They have handles on them, so I would like grab one and like pull like literally that slow, pull myself up. So again, my surgery was like really early in the morning. Their goal was to just get me to stand up. I don't even think I took any steps at that point by that evening. By the second day, they do encourage you to start walking. You walk the like 6 feet to your bathroom and back. That's very slow and difficult. You're getting pain medication the whole time, so as long as you're staying on top of that pain medication, it's not too bad. It is still uncomfortable though. I didn't want to be like 10 out of 10 medicated, so I kind of like stayed at like a lower level. So I still did have a lot of discomfort, and really it wasn't until the 4th day in the hospital, I left on the 4th day, that I could take a shower and stuff by myself without having to have a nurse there to spot me walking and everything else. So cesarean is definitely not the easy way out, like I said. Yes, it's nice. I'm looking forward to walking in the hospital and knowing that Jolie is gonna be born in my arms like an hour and a half later. But it's a road afterwards. So if you have any friends that end up having a cesarean, especially unplanned, check in on them, ask them how they are feeling, not just how the baby's doing. Set up a meal train for them, bring them food, bring them diapers, like help them out, fill up their water bottles. That I could probably make that a whole other video too. Like, especially I'll do that like after I have Jolie and maybe give tips on how mates can help out with the situation. Let me show you my scar, because I'm sure you're all curious. But again, I'm like, so I had Davin at 26 weeks. I'm now around 27 to 28 weeks, just FYI. So the scar is probably like 18 months old, and I didn't put any Mederma or anything on it to try to reduce the scar, because I figure, well, I'm gonna have more C-sections, so once I'm done having babies, maybe I'll worry about it. I'm very happy with the placement, how low she went, and every time they do the surgery, they will remove, like the scar will be removed, and then there will be like a fresh line there. So again, like, why bother with it? But anyways, I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know if I have any pictures or anything of how the scar was before, like as it was healing. It took quite a while to heal. Like, there was definitely a lot of numbness and puffiness above the scar line for quite a while. So I still have some numbness. Again, it being like over 1.5 years now. And I've talked to people that have had C-sections years and years ago, and they still sometimes have numbness. And my doctor told me that, like, you might never get full sense back, but it's not like a really weird thing. It's just when you touch the skin, you notice like, oh, I can't feel anything as much. But anyways, so here, this is my baby belly, and here's my cute pants. So like, here's where I would normally wear my pants when I'm not pregnant. And the scar is about 2 inches lower. So it's right there. So it's wider than I thought it would be, but I'm really happy with how flat it is. So yeah, there you go. So I hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up. It really supports my channel. Lets me know that you like this content. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next coming videos. And comment, like, if you've had a C-section, or if you've known to have somebody have a C-section, and you have like some positive stories for people to read. I think that would be really helpful if this is just like a flood of some kind of positive things, or maybe if there was something that, again, like me, I wish somebody had told me that. Let's not try to scare everybody, but just being honest and authentic like I am. Yeah, other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.